Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? Welcome to the finale of our journey together. It's hard to think we've started with a random spawn and a prayer, and not only managed to survive, but have built a long-term sustainable base, and filled it with enough guns and ammo to go to war with the state of Kentucky. Today, I want to do something big, like 2 FPS game crashing big. Obviously, there's been a small time skip, so let me recap what I've been up to. First, I chopped down a ton of trees and spent that time sawing those logs into planks, which we'll need in a few minutes. After that, I went back to the warehouses to grab one of the trailers sitting around. Then proceeded to binge watch my entire collection of VHS tapes. From there, I went out and found an antique oven that'll serve literally no purpose in this video, but I was excited to find one, so it's in the mini montage now. Once all that was taken care of, I finally harvested my crops, giving me more than enough food to survive on. Alright, now that we've made it through that incredibly long-winded intro, we can get to the actual finale. It's been a little over a week in-game, and during that time, I found that it's incredibly boring living out here. I mean, come on, it's gotten so bad that even the neighbors up and left. In all honesty, not much goes on this far out of the fray. It's incredibly quiet unless I head into town for some needless reason. All of this to say, I think it's time to head to greener pastures. Funny enough, this video was almost over before it even got started. While driving to my destination, I ran into a group of migrating zombies perfectly timed out with a car wreck in the middle of the street. I lost control of the car after hitting a zombie and almost got myself stuck while trying to recover. I had a similar instance occur a few hours later when I wrapped the trailer around a phone pole directly in front of a group of zombies. Luckily, I've played this game enough to know that panicking over something like this is a surefire way to get yourself killed, so I just kept finagling the truck back and forth until I was able to get around the pole and push through the zombies surrounding me. After that, it was smooth sailing for about 5 hours, until apparently Zomboid thought I was having too smooth of a driving experience and felt the need to spawn a massive horde of zombies directly in the center of the road. Again, panicking in this situation will only get you killed. It's best to just keep mashing A and D while holding W to keep moving the wheels back and forth and nudging the zombies out of the way, all while praying your engine survives the push. Eventually, you'll be able to work your way through the group and back on your way. By the end of the day, I was pretty close to my destination, but didn't want to make a final push during the night while exhausted. I ended up finding a nice quiet place to pull over and rest for the night, continuing my journey the following morning. At around 11:30 a.m. on August 18th, I rolled into Bedford Falls. With a crowd of zombies waiting in open arms, I parked my truck and got to work securing the area. It's worth noting that I'm carrying 11 double-stack magazines for my Beretta, so I'm going to be cutting out the several minutes of reloading because no one wants to watch all that play out. That being said, if there's any close calls, I'll keep those in to spike your blood pressure a little bit. As if strolling into Bedford Falls wasn't hard enough, I was faced with another hurdle when some jackass in a helicopter came by to check out what I was up to. Side note, this has absolutely nothing to do with the remainder of this video, but I found a Jason Voorhees zombie amongst the crowd and wanted to point that out, so here you go. Alright, back to the chaos. After dealing with zombies for the majority of the day, I managed to clean up the first horde by 7 o'clock that evening. While walking through the corpse-ridden street, I managed to find a cowboy hat and figured it was time for a return to my true form, especially for what I had planned. Also, I realized I didn't show off what gear I brought, so here's a quick peek at some of the stuff in the trunk. To end the night, I backed the truck up a few hundred feet so I wouldn't pull any additional zombies from Bedford out, and after finding a peaceful section of road, went to sleep. Waking up the next morning, I swapped over to the M19 since my Beretta was effectively destroyed. The good news is that today is the initial setup day for my project. The downside of that is I'll be moving deeper into the city, thus pulling larger amounts of zombies. In order to pull this build off, I need one very specific building. See, it's got to have a large fencing to the north, east, and west sides with only the southern plot exposed. This is vital as it impacts the zombie pathing in a very specific way, which I'll need to pull this off. That being said, I don't want to start building until the area is safe. I've got my work cut out for me on this one. The surrounding area wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be, and by early afternoon, I was able to start building out my trap. Even with careful planning, I found myself out of planks by the afternoon, forcing me to chop down some trees to finish up the project. With the leftover planks, I built out some additional space on top of the wall of stairs. This will come in handy when I set things in motion later on. This is what the trap looks like, semi-completed. There's still a little more that needs to be done, such as a place for me to hang out in, but the general principle is completed, so let me explain how this works. I took a page out of my friend Ambiguous Amphibian's book and built a line of stairs wall to wall with fencing. Since zombies can't break the large fencing, they'll automatically path around it to the stairs. The generator at the top will pull zombies toward it due to the sound radius. If you're wondering why the ping every 10 minutes isn't good enough, that only works when zombies have a clear path towards you. I will be hiding out Anne Frank style in this house, watching it all from the second floor. Once I'm past the generator, I'll disassemble the one tile in between us, effectively cutting out any way for a zombie to reach me. This is why the generator is so important, as it'll be responsible for pulling zombies in once the player pings are effectively neutralized. The small set of flooring appears to allow zombies to push themselves up the stairs like one of those coin pusher games at an arcade. Once they reach the top, they'll be pushed over the platform and inside the fencing of the house. Zombies can't destroy the stairs or the large fencing, which will effectively lock them inside this pit. I call it Zomboid Fire Vest 2023. I also brought along enough food and water to last myself several days up here before I'll need to get creative. Along with basic necessities, I brought along my AK, the Spaz shotgun, which I'll use to thin out most of the hordes. As a failsafe, I also brought several Molotovs that I can use to burn the zombies from a safe vantage point. The only downside to that is I've built into the house, so once the house catches on fire, I'll need an escape plan ready to go. With my trap set, all that's left to do is group up as many zombies as possible. As I'm sure you've seen by now, this is incredibly easy to do since my location is pinged to every zombie within 150 tiles every 10 in-game minutes, meaning all I have to do is walk around Bedford for a few hours and I'll naturally attract some of the tens of thousands of zombies in the area. To be honest, the most difficult part of this wasn't even kiting the massive amount of zombies through the streets, it was trying to maneuver my way back down the block to my setup at 11 o'clock at night without running cat's eyes. Seriously, do you know how hard it is to see a zombie outline in this? My face was practically pressed against the screen looking for any movement so I could shove run my way through anything in front of me. That being said, I was able to make it back to the top of the trap, start the generator, and disassemble the walkway before zombies started flooding up the stairs. Here's a little glimpse of the trap in action. I can't really do much at this point besides wait, so I'm gonna let this run for a few days and we'll come back to check on it intermittently. Alright, it's been about 4 days in game and as you can see in the top left corner, we are chugging along. It gets even worse when I fully zoom out, but here's what we're working with. There's so many zombies that there aren't even texturing in anymore. They're just black silhouettes for the most part. I even tried to shred through some of them with a shotgun, but if anything, it really only made the situation worse with all the blood splatter and all. I used the rest of my planks to build out a small platform off to the side of the house so I can throw Molotovs without insta-dying from hitting the roof. That being said, there's still some uncertainty here. This seems to be the only way out of the situation, but if I hit the building, it'll burn down my platform before killing the zombies, which will result in a pretty brutal death. All things considered, I'm completely out of ideas as to how I can escape this, so let's let it ride. Well, the first one went behind me. This probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but keep this in the back of your mind for now. It'll come back later. The second throw managed to hit the platform, igniting the generator. Best case scenario, it'll spread along the stairs, killing all the zombies outside of the trap. My third Molotov managed to land inside the trap, igniting hundreds of zombies in the initial blast. All that's left to do now is sit back and wait patiently. One thing I noticed almost immediately is that the siding of the house already caught fire. This is bad news for me considering my platforms are connected to the house. This only gets worse when at 7 AM the fire spread onto my platform. Thinking on my feet, I used most of my water to put it out, though I'm not sure if that'll fully stop the spread or if it'll continue. Approximately 2 hours after throwing the Molotovs, I recorded my first kills. What started as only a couple quickly spiraled into a few dozen, which began the largest snowball I've ever seen in Zomboid. At one point, I was killing over 20 zombies per tick, and after only a few minutes, I was already up over 4,000 kills. This, in turn, brought me from 2 FPS all the way up to 42. At this point, I began speeding up time, having completely forgotten about the first Molotov. Remember when I told you to keep that in the back of your mind throughout the section? Well, that's because while I was focused on watching Burning Man Zomboid Edition, the first Molotov was putting in work climbing from the grass outside of the trap and teleporting its way onto my platform, exactly 1 tile behind me. Having used most of my water to put out the first fire, I didn't have enough to put out this one, effectively trapping me between burning to death on a platform or burning to death in a pool of zombies. Figuring this was the end, I chose to light a cigarette on the open flames, which somehow put out the fire. Don't ever let anyone tell you smoking kills, guys. It literally saved my life here. With the majority of the zombies burnt to a crisp, I took a leap of faith and hopped down, using the AK to clear out the remaining zombies. After making a stupid mistake that almost got me killed, I fled the area, leaving my cowboy hat to burn in the flames. Even after clearing out over 4,500 zombies, there's still thousands littering the streets, so I switched focus from gunning them down to mixing them in with the pyro zombies. This way, the fire should continue to spread from zombie to zombie, doing my dirty work for me. All I need to do is simply stay alive and wait them out. Easier said than done, for sure, but it's still doable. An issue I was running into with this method was that I'm ridiculously tired. Normally not the end of the world, but this impacts my rate at which your endurance recovers. All of this to say I can't simply stop and rest at a park bench to recover and keep moving. I'll just continue to slowly deplete my stamina until the zombies finally catch up to me. Tired, hungry, and exhausted, I found a solace in a small pond in the middle of the woods. While waiting for George to tell me about the rabbits, I had an overwhelming feeling of emptiness. There is no happy ending. They're never going to stop. How can you possibly win when your enemy knows your exact location, even when you don't? There's only one way this was ever going to end. This is how you died, after all. Thank you all so much for watching. This was a new challenge for me and something I've never gotten to really mess around with before. It's a ton of fun and I highly recommend giving it a go for yourself if you're ever looking for something fresh. A big thank you to my YouTube members and Patreon supporters. You're the reason I get to make content like this and I'll forever appreciate that. I'd like to give a quick thanks to Mystic and Louie for recommending this playthrough to me a while ago. This video quite simply would not have been possible without them. I appreciate you all. And as always, thanks for stopping by.